I wanted to make defending sexy, so to speak.
I was a milkman from the age of 13. A milkman. How you don't train Monday to Friday and you think, and then you turn up on a Saturday. I'd have cramp after 60 minutes.
We used to love each other's company so much that after training, we used to spend hours together. The thought never crossed my mind of ever leaving the club.
Hi everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Spurs Official Podcast. And yes, that Yorkshire accent is me, Michael Dawson. I am going to be hosting this podcast along with my friend and one and only Paul Miles. I don't know him as Paul Miles. I know him as Milesy. He's been at the football club for over 2 decades, interviewed the managers, the players, myself, and now he's co-hosting. How are you, mate?
Brilliant, Dawes. Who'd have thought it, eh? You and me on the podcast. This is what we've been waiting for. The captain's here. He's going to lead us forward like he led this football team. Michael Dawson, 324 games for this great club. I was there for your final interview. We did a final interview.
I must have been crying.
I think you were. I think you were.
There you go.
I think you were. It was so sad, but we got you back. You've done a great job as club ambassador, and now we're going to a new string to your bow.
I mean, look, our first guest. We don't need to talk too much about
You
him.
barely need to introduce him.
I don't need to introduce him. We don't need to introduce him. I think everyone will know who this guy is going to be. Legend of the football club. However, he played one less game than me, and I'm not too sure how. He's a regular on N17. We see him everywhere. One club, one man, the main man. Welcome, Ledley.
Thanks for having me. How many goals did you score, by the way? I played one less game, but how many goals
I'm not
was
sure.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I haven't got that.
We've got no stats on that one.
Okay.
You probably would. I didn't get too many, mate. But it's great to have you and great to see you as usual. How is everything?
Yeah, great. You know, enjoying my work as an ambassador.
It's funny, we were just talking, weren't we, just talking behind the scenes, how your life sort of develops after football. Now, sadly, in your case, that was, football was taken away from you a little bit too early, really, wasn't it, age of 31. But here we are doing a podcast together. I bet you never saw that, the pair of you, did you?
He never saw me hosting it and you co-hosting it, that's for sure.
Brilliant. Okay, look, let's get into it. I think the important thing is that podcasts like this aren't just about football. We're delving a little bit deeper, aren't we, here? We're delving a little bit deeper, and Ledley has got a fantastic story to tell. It's why he's an inspiration to many kids in the London area, especially kids that, who support Tottenham, but kids out of East London. Ledley, you were out of East London.
I was.
Tell us about your early life, mate.
I grew up in, as you say, East London, in an area called Bow. Back in the day, probably saw it as quite a rough area to kind of grow up. It's not too bad now, actually. Like most things, kind of change. They change, and I go back quite regularly. I still have friends in the area, but for me, it was I grew up in a single parent home, and I was the oldest of two, and I was just determined to kind of do well for my family. I fell in love with football early doors, and that was my motivation. Looking back now, I'm lucky that I had good friends around me as well, because every time I left the house, as a parent, you're never sure what your kid is getting up to. Luckily for me, I had a cage directly outside my house, and my mum could find me in there 9 times out of 10 playing football with my friends. So looking back, I'm lucky that I had that. It kept me out of trouble, stopped me from being bored, and really kind of set me along the way of following my dreams in a career that I always wanted to do.
Miles, you just touched on it then. Look, we all know about your career. I know everything about that. I played so many games with you. But this is what we're trying to delve into, your early life.
Yeah.
Did you have any jobs? Let me tell you my first job. See if you can beat this one.
Okay, go on.
Not many people know this. I know the podcast is not about me. I'm hosting it. But I was a milkman. From the age of 13, a milkman. I used to get up at 6:15. I'd go to my Auntie Margaret's. My Auntie Margaret's, I think it's actually my mum's auntie who's 80 odd now. She used to make me a cup of tea. I'd sit on the sofa and she'd go, right, milk van's here, you go out and run around for 2 hours, deliver the milk, back home, get me milk, put it in the microwave, have me Weetabix, bath and then to school. That's why academically I wasn't very good. Can you beat that? What was your upbringing like? Did you have any jobs, anything different?
No, listen, I never saw 6:15 as a kid. never saw that type of time. You've had it tough, dogs.
Well,
Bloody hell. No, that's fair play to you.
So
Going
no
out there,
jobs,
nothing,
nothing like
literally
that?
at school every day. Never even done work experience at school. For some reason, my year didn't do it. We missed out.
Okay.
So I didn't even get a chance to sample another kind of job, another lifestyle. It's always just been football.
So that's it.
Really
That's
simple.
all you know.
Yeah.
Left school and then straight
I've
into
never-
it. Wow.
no other
There
job.
you go.
No.
And now looking at you, dab under everything, mate.
Yeah.
Hands in
I'll
everything.
try it, mate.
So tell us about school, lads.
Yeah.
Tell us about school. Were you a good student?
Was I a good student? I think I was a nice kid. Was polite. I was quite shy. I was a shy kid. But yeah, I think I was. I'm sure the teachers will say I was a nice young boy. But in terms of academically, probably didn't do the best. But as I say, football was kind of always on my mind, even when I was in class at times. But yeah, I enjoyed school. Had lots of friends. I was popular. You normally are when you're kind of good at a sport in school. And
So
then
apart
when
from
you
PE,
have
what was your favourite subject? Did you have one?
Yeah. What did I like? I liked. What else did I like? Yeah,
You just turned
maths.
up.
I liked maths. To be fair, I did like my maths. I'm trying to think of what we was doing back in school.
Science,
music, we
Bunsen burners,
No, I was going to say
anything
no,
like that?
nothing
No?
great with
Not
science.
saying anything, no?
I didn't
History,
actually mind
chemistry?
History was cool. History was cool. As I say, football was on my mind many times.
You talked
in the
about
classroom.
that, Ledge. You talked about like where you lived in Bow and you had a cage right opposite.
Yeah.
Is that all you dreamed of being? Like, was that your
Yeah,
focus?
nothing-
Was that maybe something that give you a drive?
There was nothing else in my mind
Yeah.
ever. When people ask this question, even now, what would you have done if you didn't play football? And I have no answer. Obviously.
Not a milkman, obviously.
Yeah.
Made me muscle. No, I should have done them a few years longer.
Yeah. No, obviously, I would have found something to
Yeah.
do. But, luckily for me, I was able to follow my dreams. My path was pretty smooth. I joined a Sunday league team, age probably 7 or 8, and kind of developed from there. Playing for my district, Tower Hamlets, then my borough, London. Picked up by Spurs. Everything was kind of quite smooth sailing, and then it was up to me to kind of keep progressing, keep doing well, and kind of taking the next challenge. And I just continue to do that throughout my career.
You touched on that, your grassroots football, Senrab.
Yeah.
You had some
Good team.
top players who played
team.
for your team, and then obviously an
other years as
older
well.
age. Give us some of them names.
So in my team, there was myself, Bobby Zamora, who was a striker. We had Paul Konchesky, who was striker, stroke left winger.
there you
But then
go.
we had J-Lod Samuel, who was a left winger as well, and John Terry, who was a centre midfielder back then.
Some
And
team.
I was at the back, so yeah. Needless to say, we was a pretty strong.
You
team.
won everything.
I was used.
And
to
then
winning
Jermaine, was he at Senrab as well?
Jermaine was 2 years younger.
Yeah.
Jermaine played with Leon Knight. Do you remember Leon
Yeah,
Knight?
Leon, he
they-
was some
they were the
player
two-
as
yeah,
well.
They're both top. I used to finish my game and then go over and watch some of their game, and you just used to see Leon and Jermaine just scoring for fun.
Well, something in the water.
Unbelievable.
Goodness gracious.
Unbelievable.
Premier League players, top players who played for that grassroots team.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, actually, the way the pair of you talk about growing up, because you're both still from an era where I bet if someone said to you, "Okay, Dawes, okay, lads, what did you used to do then when you got in from school? Play football. What did you do when you got up? Play football. What did you do on Saturday morning? Play football." Literally, I bet the pair of you did nothing else.
Yeah, there wasn't so
Apart
many.
from play football.
There wasn't so many distractions, back then. Anything else was a big luxury. Luckily for me, as I say, I had the cage directly outside my house, so that was my go-to. That was the first place that I went to after I got back from school. I have to give a big shout out to my good friend of mine, especially when we were young, a lad called James Carter, and his parents really, who had a big influence on me. Kind of growing up, they were the ones that took me to Senrab along with their son, and Fred, who passed away recently, was the one who used to take me to the games with his son. So without them as well, being able to kind of cart me around, I wouldn't have been able to kind of have the career I had. So
You always
big shout out to
remember,
them.
don't you? You always
Yeah, of
remember
course,
the people who helped you out on the way up.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
When did you realise that you wanted to become a professional footballer? What age did you think, this is a dream I'm going to follow? I know we play grassroots and
I'll tell you the age when I really thought that I can do it. 11.
Okay.
So before that, I'm sure I probably wanted to be a footballer. I'd say 11 was when I thought I could definitely be a footballer. And maybe that was because you go to secondary school at that age and you mix in with kids that are, 3-4 years older than you at times, and still being the best player, then you realise that you got something, you wanted something. So that was probably the age when I really thought about, being a professional footballer, or the fact that I could do it if I continued to just keep progressing, keep working hard. So I'd say probably 11, yeah.
And then it became.
But I will say this:
One man.
as well. It wasn't just be a footballer at that age. I actually wanted to be the best footballer in the world.
Oh, okay.
That was my in my head at that time, and you can call it naive because you're 11 and the world was my little world that I knew, I suppose. Didn't realise how big the world was.
But you know what? That's great as an 11-year-old to think, I have this dream, I'm going to be the best player in the world. And you think kids are now playing at grassroots. That's what they believe. And you've got to follow your dream, haven't you?
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's what, kept me progressing, kept me improving, that following that dream to be the best. But I realised, all of a sudden, I think I played at England at under 16 level, and then you realise there's different players from different countries who are pretty good, and maybe, okay, I'm not like a Messi, but you know what? I'm going to be the best player in my position in the world. It quickly turned to being the best defender in the world.
When did pro football become a reality? What age? Because Spurs were now monitoring you, and you would come and join our academy system.
Yeah. Well, I started off at Leyton Orient. So Leyton Orient kind of took all our players from Senrab.
Okay.
They were the closest team to us, and everyone kind of eventually left Leyton Orient and went on to different places.
So you talked about John Terry, about Bobby Zamora, Paul Konchesky.
Yep, J-Lo Samuel,
and you all went to Orient?
Yeah, we was all at Orient at some stage. And then
there you go.
I didn't know that.
We left. I joined, obviously come to Tottenham at 14. I'd probably say at that age is probably when, you're mixing it with at a top established, Premier League football club, who have got some of the best kids around from even from different countries at times. They're bringing in players from different countries, and that's when you get a chance to evaluate yourself and see where you are, see where you kind of stack up against the so-called kind of best players around. So at 14, I probably was able to see that, and then again, gave me more confidence so I could keep working hard and kind of make my way through.
So who did you spot as a young kid?
So do you know what? The first ever game I went to watch was Millwall. So this was, again, because of my best friend at the time, Millwall supporter. And yeah, his dad took us along to Millwall a few times. So that was my kind of first experience of watching pros play football. But then not long after that, I was a Tottenham fan.
So we know the relationship you've got with the club. You love the football club. The fans love you. But who have we got to thank who brought you to the club? Was there a scout who brought you from Orient? Who was it?
Well, I think John Moncur was at the club at the time, at the football club, and I actually think he might have been related to my friend James, his dad. So at the time, 3 of us actually come down from Leyton Orient. It's myself, James, and a lad called Stephen Mills, and we all joined together. And it's funny because to this day, I have no idea how we ended up here or how I ended up here, because I was almost at the mercy of my friend's dad. He was the one who had all the discussions, and all I knew is that 3 of us were coming to Tottenham to train. So I don't know if I was part of their package deal or they was part of my package deal. But we all come down to Tottenham together.
Get your friends and get lens free, but he's coming, he can play a bit.
I might have come for free in the package.
Hey, I know how it feels, that, mate. I know how it feels. Yeah, exactly. It's okay.
So yeah, I don't really know, but obviously to have 2 friends come with you at the same time is great. I felt comfortable straight away. My first training session in the ball court.
Might be worth.
You remember the ball court?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah?
It might be worth explaining to everyone what the ball court was at the old White Hart Lane.
Yeah, so
Some people might not
the
know.
old stadium, there was a little, there was like there was a car park, wasn't it? The bottom bit, and above it was like a
Indoor pitch, basically.
indoor football pitch,
Yeah.
and to me that was like it was amazing. It was like my little Wembley, and it had a little area where the parents could watch, a little enclosure where they could watch training, and that was like back then it was like massive to be able to perform in front of the other parents, and kind of show what you've got. So we used to train twice a week. Then we used to make our way from school in East London on the train, and twice a week we used to train Tuesdays and Thursdays in the ball court, and that's where I met Crouchy as a 14-year-old. But yeah, that was kind of the start of everything. That ball court was magical, and I'm sure everyone who experienced it will tell you how much they really enjoyed playing.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
They tell a fascinating story. I spoke to Ledley and Crouchy about this underground trip that used to start with Crouchy over in West London, and it used to snake its way through London, Central
But
London.
this was once we was youth team, so
Yeah.
from the training ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it used to be picking up teammates along the way, wasn't it? So by the time you got near to the to East London and your side of it, there's about 5 or 6 of you, wasn't
yeah,
there?
Scratchy used to come a long way to
It's some
training.
journey and some dedication that you have to put in at that age. And like you say, some of the other lads didn't go on to have a professional career. Any sacrifice, you know, is there anything you would have changed along the route?
No,
Apart from
not
picking
really.
everyone up when Crouchy had to do
Yeah,
the pick up.
Eventually, everyone started driving, and quite early, and then it changed. But listen, the youth team days were great. I'm sure you say the same about your ones, and it's some really good lads. Ones that I'm still in contact with now. Obviously, I mentioned Crouchy. He was just, he's just a great guy.
Great,
And
great
he was
character.
he was great back then. But we used to love each other's company so much that after training, we used to spend hours together before we got on the train. Sometimes we'd sit at the train station in Chigwell for 2-3 hours, just sitting there letting trains go by. We didn't want to go home. We just wanted to kind of be in each other's company. It's crazy. We'd just be having fun, having a laugh, as we did.
Crouchy once told me an unbelievable story. Dawes is going to love this, and you've got to tell me if it's true or not, and I'm sure it will be. Did you, the pair of you, once miss the start of training or get a right rollicking because you were playing snooker over the road and you were late?
Yeah, I think maybe it was I'm not sure if it was a double session. Maybe we had a double session, and we went and played a couple of frames of snooker.
So
Probably took a little bit longer than we.
So what happened then? Did you get fined?
I don't think we got fined. I think we got a rollicking.
I've worked with someone the other day, and I asked about them working the academy, and I said, "What happens? It's not at this club. It's at another football club, because we used to get fined as a kid. If you were late, it was fined £5. Now that's gone out the window. So it was a strike. You got, I think, 1 strike you missed training, 2 strikes something else, and when you had 3 strikes, you weren't playing on a Saturday.
Okay.
I was thinking, wow, so that would actually hurt you more than probably at the time playing your £5.
But to be honest, even back then, you don't want to get told off by your coach. In the youth team, and you know what it's like. If you're playing the game, you might be playing a game of snooker, and it's taking a little bit longer. You got to finish it. You got to finish it.
2 of the best
finish
players.
the game.
No, I'd be running quick. I think I can't be late.
I think
you and Crouchy, I bet you got away with it.
We dashed back, but we obviously didn't get away with it. But
But you still played on the Saturday, the pair of you, though, didn't you? You weren't dropped. Couldn't drop them too.
I'm not sure.
But looking ahead, I mean, obviously you're talking about when you're 14, 15. So tell us about the next step. Is obviously, you're coming into the academy now full time.
Yeah.
How was that progression from schoolboy into academy?
Yeah, I mean, that's when it gets real, I suppose. All of a sudden you're training every day. And that's when you get to know people on a different level in terms of your teammates, because before that it's twice a week. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you're only really spending hour and a half, 2 hours with them max a time. So all of a sudden you're getting into the training ground at whether it's 8:30, and spending until sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock with the same people every day. So you develop relationships, and that's when it gets real. That's when you kind of around the first team players. They're training at the same facility, and you get to see them and how they act, and conduct themselves, and that's when you start to really start to dream. That's when you start to see that the path is there for you. If you can continue to kind of progressing and developing as a player, it's in touching distance at that point. And often you'd get a chance to actually train with the first team, which was amazing. Sometimes the youth team would train against the starting team, the starting first team, the day before a game, and sometimes we done well. Sometimes we we beat them the day before a game. It's like you remember how difficult it can be at times, and that's when you get a chance to pick yourself up against first team players. And I think the biggest thing when you're young is the physical side more than the actual technical side. It's like you're dealing with real physical men, and when you're 16, I was always a tall lad, always big for my age, but it's a whole different kind of physicality. When you're up against real man strength, and that's something that you kind of realise at a young age, that you're gonna have to kind of grow and gain that strength before you can really get in there and start playing.
But then that dream came true. You'd worked through the academy, you got into the youth team, and then you're in the first team at a young age. How good did that feel? Yeah,
it was amazing. It was amazing. But first it was because there was a lad called Alton Farewell who come through as well, and I remember being injured at a time when he was called up for a first team game. So he was on the bench for a first team game, and we was like 17, and kind of that kind of reverberation within the kind of youth team was massive. And I remember feeling jealous. Listen, Alton was my friend. He's still my friend now, but that's the competitive edge.
Of course, it is 100%.
You know what I mean? That's what
definitely
drives you on. I remember just thinking, what, that could have been me or should have been me, type of thing. And I just remember the buzz that it caused for within the youth setup that someone had kind of been on the bench on match of the day, name being called out. So that was great for him.
That is your dream as a kid, isn't it? To be the academy you get in, you always look to a first team and think, walking out.
We played the same position, so naturally, regardless, you have to see competition in everyone. We're all friends, but it's competition for places. So I remember kind of after that, kind of realising again that there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity here. Once I get back, start pushing on, and eventually, a little bit later, I got my debut away at Anfield, and tough place to go.
I know that.
Yeah.
We know that.
You made your debut there as well, didn't you? Yeah.
Sat alongside me, or I was sat alongside you. Should I say?
Tried to help you through it. I actually come on at left back at half time at Anfield. I don't even think I've ever played left back again. Maybe that was that. Maybe that was that.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
No, that's bad. There's no but no, I think it goes back to me being a player that was comfortable in different positions. I was able to kind of get my chance, regardless of whether it was a left back or midfield or whatever. But tough debut. 2-0 up when I come on at half time. Just gone down to 10 men, and come on at half time, and it's just backs to the wall for the whole half. And we ended up losing the game 3-2. So naturally you think it's your fault. It's your first game.
Yeah.
We were winning when you come on. We lost the game. So that was quite tough to take. But I don't think I didn't make any mistakes that led to the goals. But again, you probably look at yourself and you have I don't want to say you have a few doubts, but it just makes you think a little bit. Think about the kind of level that you're playing at, and how tough it can be.
Yeah.
How tough it can be.
You had Steve McManaman running down your side, didn't you? Was it Steve McManaman? I'm sure it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all a blur. And one thing that stands out to me is, because I was playing left back, and I remember a ball going out of play. Obviously, as a left back, you take throw-ins there. That's something that I was never really had to do before. So I remember the ball went out into the crowd, and someone's absolutely pelted the ball back at me, into my chest. And I thought, Hold on, I'm just a young kid making his
Help
debut.
me out a little bit. I need some help. I
You
need
know
some
what I mean?
guidance.
And I thought, okay, this is how it is, right?
Hey, well, Ledge, you went on to play 323 games for the football club. When you make your debut, you never think this is going to be the only one I'm ever going to be at. But was there any periods in your career when you were at Spurs, or any interest from any other football club that maybe tempted you or even wanted you?
Yeah. You have to ask my agent, but to be honest, I wasn't interested.
Yeah.
You know, I obviously was captain at 23 or so, and my mentality was that I just wanted to take my team forward to try and compete. You know, compete for trophies, and you know that was my mentality. Obviously, at 26, a lot changed with me. But I can honestly say, even before that, you know, I know there was certain interest, but yeah, I was never ever interested. I've always said that it would mean more to me to win one or two with my club than go elsewhere. So obviously, you know, you can never say what could have happened later in my career. You don't know. But all I can say is that the thought never crossed my mind of ever leaving the club. And you know, I know that I was always someone that wanted to take my team and you know, make it the best team rather than kind of jump ship.
Well, it was one man and one club, and you got to lead the team. How proud were you coming in as a 14-year-old, then be given the armband?
Yeah, it was an amazing feeling. You know, we've obviously had some great captains in the past. You know, Gary Mabbott, who I get a chance to spend a lot of time with now, and you know, during my time, I had Teddy Sheringham as the captain, and Jamie a little bit, Jamie Redknapp, two great guys, and I think what you do is you take parts of what you've learnt along the way, but it's important to be yourself. You know, it's no good trying to be someone else all of a sudden. And yeah, I had to kind of learn and develop as we went along. And I would say this though: the toughest part was when I wasn't able to train, when you're not on the training pitch. So from the age of 26, not being able to train, not being there with the lads every day, that was the toughest part. Because you know what it's like when you're injured.
Yeah.
You don't even want to. You feel embarrassed, don't you? So you don't even want to be around. You don't even want to sometimes see the lads, because sometimes the banter. Are you're going to train?
And people don't realise that they're only trying to say something.
Yeah. It's fun.
Try and make you part of it, but inside when you are injured,
you're miserable.
And that must have been so hard for you, lads.
It's difficult.
Being injured
difficult.
from 26 and having to deal with the captain of the football club, the expectation, because me as a fellow centre half, when you weren't there, we missed you. So you've got the pressure from the manager, you've got the pressure from the fans, and you've got the pressure from yourself wanting to do it. How did you deal with that mentally?
It was tough. I think I quickly had to accept that I wasn't going to be the player that I want, as good as I could have been. So that was the first thing, and then it was about still having an impact, you know, and the only way I could do that was on the pitch. It's tough because you when you're injured, you're thinking about yourself more. I'm thinking about how I can get through, how I can get myself fit, and then try and be an impact on the pitch. And that's what I did. You know, I just tried to make sure that when I was on the pitch, we was a better team. You know, I made other players better.
We certainly were, mate. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, but, you know, it then wasn't so much about my own performances, because I was always someone that if I didn't play well, I'm not happy. You know, if we win, I'm happy, but I'll always look at myself, and if I don't play well, then I'm not completely happy because I haven't done my part. So it was always important. That's what drove me to perform well, regardless, and that consistency. But I realised after that, it's not so much about that. It's about influencing everyone else, making them better. And, you know, if that means that my performance is not what I was used to, so be it. But we're going to be a better team, and, you know, we're going to have a better chance of winning if I'm playing. That was my mentality.
Well, that was certainly how it was, lads. If we can go back to 2008, when we last won a trophy, was that the proudest moment for you in a Spurs shirt?
Yeah.
Lifting that trophy, and how did that feel?
Yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, we have to keep talking about injuries because it's a big part of it. But so I think I was maybe 20. I don't know if I was 27 maybe, right? And so I'd had a year or so of not training. And when Ramos first came in, he said everyone has to train. And I said I can't train. So in the end, I started to train to show him what will happen. And my knee blew up and it was no good for anyone. You know, I was missing games. So that was kind of the first kind of year. And eventually he kind of enabled me to do it my way. But I remember reading something before the final that I was going to retire. I remember reading an article saying something about I was going to retire after the game or after that season. And I'd never thought about retirement. So that scared me. So I went into the game with an extra kind of motivation to prove to people that I was nowhere near finished yet. And I'd only played the semi-final before that and kind of missed about 3 weeks or a month or whatever between the semi-final and the final. But I knew I knew I'd be ready for the final. I was kind of gearing myself up, getting myself fit off the training pitch, obviously, in the gym. I knew I'd be ready for the final. So I just remember going into that game with extra motivation to show people there was still a lot of football left in me. And yeah, of course, the proudest moment to be able to climb the stairs and kind of be part of the club's history in lifting a trophy.
You certainly showed that, lads, that day. You're magnificent.
Incredible, him and Woody. And it's interesting with the pair of you together, actually, because obviously, Ledley's injury is an important part of his journey. But, I mean, that leads to a lot of joy and a lot of pain and, all those emotions. That cup final, you can flip the script, you two, can't you? Because Ledley played and proudly captained and lifted that trophy. You had to miss out, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And that's why I talk about the mental side of being injured. Look, I had my fair share of injured, but I didn't have a long, consistent one that I had to deal with for long periods. I was out for them, and I did miss the final.
What was your injury?
A hamstring.
Okay.
So I was dealing with that.
When did you do that?
Week before.
Wow.
That was bizarre, Les, because I was on 4 bookings and we played Manchester United 2 weeks before. And Ronaldo was playing. I thought, well, guaranteed I'm going to get my 5th booking. So I'll be suspended for a week later. I'll miss Derby and I'll be fit for the final. Whether I'd have played, we never know. Woody and Leds, it probably would have been. But just for me to miss that, to not be involved with the lads when you went to the hotel a few nights before and stayed there, I was at home. There was a few of us injured. I think Gaz was injured at the time as well. And we got on a bus. We just felt it a little bit separated. And playing every game up to the final and then missing it, that was a major disappointment in my Spurs career. But it was an injury, but I was always come back from it.
Would you have preferred to have been there because as it goes back to what I was saying before about you feel a little bit embarrassed at times when you're injured.
Yeah.
You probably didn't at that point because it was only a week before, but would you have preferred to have been at the hotel around the lads or
I would
not?
have done for the final because it's a special day, isn't it? And we ended up getting on the bus and I had family down and we ended up having a good night the night before. And then when we won it, it was great. But just to be with the lads, I mean, we had a great night, didn't we? It was fantastic. But that was just something, and I know the injured, when I was injured, it got me so down. I love playing football. I love training. And that's why I always felt for you because you couldn't go out Monday to Friday. People say, that's the best part of the week, really.
Of course it is, yeah.
Because then come Saturday, you think, it's only good if you win. If you don't win on a Saturday, it's not a fun day.
But
so
also, I'll tell you about the actual mental part of it because when you don't train, it's impossible to feel good on the match day.
Saturday.
So I imagine not touching the ball throughout the week and then going and playing because you know that you just got to get that rhythm of touching the ball and so that was again.
I physically could not have done that, and that's why I always used to say he's some machine. Like how you don't train Monday to Friday, and you think, and then you turn up on a Saturday. I'd have cramp after 60 minutes. I was one that had to train, get momentum, play games. But you were a Rolls Royce, lads. That's why you could do it. Not many other players could have done that.
I think you can get away with it probably as a centre back more than any other position, but more than the actual like fitness part of it. For some reason, I was fine kind of with the fitness. It's the actual rustiness of not touching the ball that was tough. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I saw that a while ago. I played in a game at Ibrox, and Jermaine looked like he'd finished last week. I looked like I'd finished about 10 years ago, not 2 years ago.
Mentioned the cup final and those contrasting emotions for the pair of you, but it's brilliant to have the pair of you together because just over a year a couple of years later, it must be your best night in a Spurs shirt, Man City away. Obviously, we go there. We needed to. It was basically a playoff for the Champions League, wasn't it? We won 1-0. What a night!
I've got a picture as well here, Milesy, that you'll remember it, lads, because we've seen it many a time. This picture it was a special night for me and you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think that's probably the picture I see the most of us two together.
Yeah.
What a night! Yeah, what a night! As you say, Man City at the Etihad, a team that just kind of started spending big money and bringing in top class players. And I think when I think back to it, it's we played them. Was it the first game of the season that year? And it was ridiculous. We absolutely
phenomenal
battered them. And Joe Hart made 10 quality saves. I remember looking back actually when I was coaching recently and looking at kind of the stats from the game. I think we had something crazy like, I can't remember now. It was like maybe 30 shots or something like that. It was 0-0, yes.
Do you know what? I had a goal disallowed in that game.
Did you?
Right?
Yeah.
And
Why?
We said I was offside.
Right.
I nearly missed for about 2 yards. Honestly, I nearly put it over, hit the bar and went in.
Yeah.
And if VAR was in now, then it would have counted.
Would it?
It was onside, yeah.
So what if I now tell you that the first game of that season was actually Liverpool at home and we beat them 2-1?
2-1.
And Benoit scored.
It must have been
Was
the
it
year before then. It must
No,
have
it was
been
the year
before.
after.
Same
It was the
year.
year after. We were in the
Oh,
Champions League. We were in the
okay.
Champions League, and
Was it after?
It's when Bale was flying, wasn't it? He was absolutely flying, and it was 0-0 at White Hart Lane.
Was that after?
And we absolutely battered them. It was
Yeah, we did.
2011,
JD
I
was
think.
phenomenal.
2011, I
Really?
think.
Was it?
Yeah, first game of the season.
Yeah,
0-0.
okay, yeah.
As good as I,
Milesy in it,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah. That's what
but
I
that was
said.
as good as I saw that group play. We were incredible.
Oh, that, honestly,
and
I look
Harty's
back.
just killed us, isn't it?
He made 10 great saves. Like I look back at the stats, and we had something like 30 shots that game, and that's like.
And there was question marks because Shea Given was there as well at the time.
Yeah.
That obviously Joe had just gone in.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a performance.
Yeah. So, but yeah, going back to this night, I felt confident. I felt that we had a team togetherness that they didn't have at that point. And I think that's what helped us. That's what got us over the line. We played well on the day, didn't we? Again,
Very
we had
well.
Oh,
Under
yeah,
all
so
pressure
good.
as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
it was a lot of pressure. We should have been up really, shouldn't we? Earlier, I think Gareth had a close one. I think Crouchy hit the post, didn't even have a header. I had a goal disallowed actually in this game, foul. They said I was climbing on Gareth Barry's back.
Okay.
But it's one of them. You know, I just felt, especially in the second half, I felt some games where you just feel like we got it together here. Like we're not going to concede. You know, you have that feeling we're not going to concede. I felt confident that we wasn't going to, and it was just whether we could get the goal that won it for us. And I think Kabul Yunus was playing right back that day, and he kind of rampaged down the right, crossed it. Like, obviously, I've seen the goal many times. And yeah, Crouchy popped up with an important goal for us, massive goal, and the celebrations were wild. You know, going into the corner with the Spurs fans, amazing feeling.
It was a brilliant night.
Crouchy always says that's the celebrations afterwards. That's the one he always picks out in terms of the scenes in the away end. He always picks that one out. You know, and he scored all those goals. You know, for Liverpool as well, Champions League hat-tricks, England. But that's the goal he picks out. You were down the other end of the pitch. I mean, what was it? What was it like? What was it like seeing that header go in and the crowd go up, or our fans go up in that corner? It must have been incredible.
It was. But I think there's a relief because you're playing so well, and as I say, I didn't feel like we was going to concede in the second half. So it's just whether we could score that goal. And once that goal went in, I felt like we was going to do it. We was going to do it. Everyone played well that day.
They would have took a point, wouldn't they, taking it to the last game of the season. We were going to Burnley.
Yeah, but we didn't actually. I don't remember that feeling. That. So what was the point?
If we'd won, we were in the Champions
went-
League.
Yeah,
So it was irrelevant to the.
So the points were what?
Must have been 3. So if we won, we then went 3 ahead in goal difference with one game to go.
Technically, we could have took a draw.
We could have took a draw, I know, but they were probably more happy the way the game was going, and then took it to the final game, and we were going to Burnley away.
But I don't remember ever feeling like just take a draw.
No, we had the momentum. We wanted to win the game.
Yeah.
They were probably. That's what I said. They were probably wanting to take the point and see where the last game took us.
Yeah.
I mean, look, good job we didn't take it because we ended up enjoying ourselves for a couple of nights, didn't we?
The type of players that we had, I don't think we was going to take. We was going to, we had one way of kind of playing, but yeah, we definitely enjoyed that, didn't we?
Too much.
Yeah, a little bit too much.
Yeah, we probably did.
Unbelievable night, and then we move on. We go into Champions League football. I know the two of you are so proud to have represented this club in the Champions League. And Leds, it takes us back, and all the years that you were catching trains and buses to go and train at White Hart Lane. There was, you and Crouchy, and all those years later, you and Crouchy are walking us out.
Mm.
Crouchy scoring the winning goal at the San Siro, for instance. You played in the Champions. It must have been. That is dream come true material, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, definitely. But I think more than thinking about ourselves at that point, it was about the team. It was about the togetherness of the group, and we had a group of lads that had been together a number of years, and we felt like we deserved it. So of course, now looking back at it, it's myself and Crouchy as 14-year-olds who would have thought that. But at the time, I don't think we ever had a chance to really take it all in like that. We were just happy for the club and us as a group of players that we were able to compete in the Champions League, because as a player, when you're watching Champions League football and you hear that anthem, you want to sample it, don't you? You just want to be there. You want that opportunity to be there, to play against the best teams, best players. So yeah, to have got there was fantastic.
It was special.
Yeah,
it was special. Right, lads, we're on to you being a fan's favourite, and we'll talk about the chant. Oh, Ledley, Ledley.
Okay.
How did that feel? Was that something you were thinking, I wish you'd shut up because I've got two and
Yeah,
one's just a little bit short?
At first.
Or did you now it's still iconic, and it's they still sing it 10 years after retiring, and you've still got a song and they still sing it, full voice, and it's magical. But do you know when you were playing, did you think, we should just change it a little bit?
Because you don't want to think about your knee. You don't want to think about your injuries. You want to forget about it. And obviously that song always reminds you of my injuries. So I remember at first not really loving it. But then I accepted it.
And now you love it. When you see the stands and I sit next to you and it's still singing. Fantastic.
But it's easy when you're on the pitch, because, I always used to try and do something that would just get like a little ripple or a little, do you know what I mean? Like a little, whether it was just a bit of skill or a little something, just anything to kind of say thank you. But now I would say that there's nothing I can do. When they're singing it now, there's nothing I can do. Just sit there embarrassed,
Head down. Gosh, your knee's been a big part of your career. It's a big part of your life. Does it impact it now? Does it have an impact on you? Yeah, it does.
It's always going to be part of my life. But I don't, it's fine. It reminds me of my,
of your great
good
times.
days. Yeah, the good days. There's nothing better than being a footballer, and it's part and parcel of the game. Do you know what I mean? I'm not the only one. But more than that, it's my hip these days.
Okay.
My hip is giving me grief, but they're all battle wounds. Do you know what I mean? And you wouldn't change it for anything.
So when that day came, when it was time to hang up the boots, and you saw the surgeon, he says, "Look, now's the time." How did you manage to deal with that, and what were your thoughts?
That last season, I played, I think, 23 league games. So it wasn't as if like I played 2 games or 3 games and you're totally finished. I still managed to play 23 league games, but the quality was dipping. So the first half of the season, I felt as good as I'd felt. I remember playing the first 12 games or so, and maybe 11 or so, we hadn't lost. So this is when Luca kind of initially was going to go Real Madrid, but he stayed. So once the window shut, he started playing. I'd missed the first couple of games. I started playing. I think we got Adebayor in, and obviously Scotty Parker had come in as well. And kind of once we all started playing together, I think it was maybe 12 or so games that we hadn't lost. And I felt good. I felt as good as I felt in years. So good that I was actually training the day before a game and kind of buzzing around, and I clattered into each other. It was myself and one of the young goalkeepers. Yeah, kind of landed awkwardly on my knee, and after that, I was out for 3 or 4 weeks. Kind of got come back to play for in the Man City game. I was nowhere near ready, to be honest, but it was a huge game. We was both kind of near the top of the table at that point, and I come back for that game, and from that point on, I never really felt the same. Never felt the same, and I gave away the penalty in the game. We lost 3-2. Remember, and that was really the beginning of me struggling. So I played maybe another 10 or so games after that, and I just felt like I wasn't the same. Couldn't move the way I wanted to move, and but I always felt at the end of the season I'll kind of find a way to come back again.
Yeah.
Because what I'd do is a lot of times I'd go away in the summer and go and do rehab, or sometimes I went to Barcelona and saw someone out there, a doctor, and done a bit of rehab and bits and pieces. So I always felt like I would go away and come back and we'd go again. But it was when I actually sat down and spoke to my surgeon over here that he just said, it's just, you're going to end up in a bad way in your 30s if you keep pushing it. And I kind of had to take that along with how I felt. So for the first time, I wasn't enjoying my football for the first time in my life, because I just couldn't move. So I had to think about that feeling and how I felt, because it's easy to forget sometimes what it was, what you felt like a few months back or a month back, and how I felt was I wasn't enjoying it. So taking what he said and how I felt, just felt like the time was right. And I always said that I'd retire when I felt like I wasn't helping my team anymore. I always said I'd retire. Could I have somehow probably took a month off and found a way to get back playing again? Maybe. I say maybe, probably. But would the quality have been there that I wanted, that I was used to? No. So yeah, it was time for me to kind of let the kind of next group of players come through.
Mentally, how was that? Were
Tough,
you ready for that? Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't.
physically
It was still a shock, because
Yeah.
as I say, I still felt, although I was struggling, I still felt I'd find a way. And it's crazy because, of course, I should have been thinking about retirement, and but I was always thinking about prolonging it, keep going, rather than actually thinking about what I'm going to do once I stop. Or so as I say, I was, even though I finished the season struggling, I still felt I had got this off season now, spend a bit of time, get it right, and come back again. But then after that chat and the way I felt, I didn't want to do myself any damage in my mid-30s, early 40s, and stuff like that. So it was time, and it was tough. But luckily for me, the club offered me a new role, and that was important, not to have too much kind of time on my hands, but to go into a new role and concentrate on doing something new. So I'm thankful for that, for sure.
Les, who was the first person you called when you came out of that room? Because it's a conversation you're never going to forget with that surgeon.
Yeah. But my mum and my missus were there, so I can't really remember who I called after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tough, kind of hearing it and then realizing that now was the time that I had to stop.
Did you have an inkling that might be? If I'm walking into this room with a surgeon,
No.
You had no inkling.
No, not really, because I didn't
thought,
think,
right,
because I'd always found a way.
Yeah.
Put it this way, my knee was always bad.
Yeah.
The surgeon would always tell me my knee was bad.
Yeah.
But I always judged it on how it felt. So you could have told me that it's impossible for you to play football, and I would shake my leg out and say, nah, I can do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it was my knee. I judged it on how it felt. But listening to knowing how it felt this time, and listening to him, and then the fact that I was going to damage myself.
Yeah, he's giving you a life warning.
He's kind of telling, you know what I mean? It was that. So yeah, coming out of there, and then I went to speak to my agents and stuff like that, and it was tough, but life goes on.
Exactly, life after playing.
Yeah.
And then
I've been waiting for everyone to retire. Like all you guys went on till late in your 30s. You, Crouchy, Keno, Jermaine's just finished. I've been waiting a while.
No, you were alongside you, mate.
Yeah.
We were having
Welcome,
fun.
well.
So life after playing, the club have been great. Did you have any other opportunities to go and see what else is out there?
In what way?
In coaching, media, from any other clubs? Or was it only Spurs?
of course
I mean,
it's-
it was great that they give you the opportunity to be ambassador, and rightly so.
Yeah.
You're a legend of this football club.
Yeah.
And great that the club kept you involved.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't really I didn't think about coaching. Wasn't thinking about coaching at that period of time. I wasn't really
I
thinking
know we
about.
started, didn't we? We started our B licence when John
Yeah, way
McDermott
back.
was
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
A
quite
long,
right.
long time
Yeah,
ago.
way back.
Alton was with us as well, wasn't he, at the time?
He was actually. I think, like anything, it takes a while for it to kind of sink in, and obviously I had a new role there for me, and I just kind of went with a new role and kind of been learning. You learn about yourself along the way. You know, all of a sudden, you're in a whole different environment. You're not in a changing room. You're not. As a player, you're almost in under a little blanket, and everything is done for you. Everything is really straightforward for you to just go and perform. So yeah, just coming out into the real world, so to speak, is a big change. Because I was someone that kind of trained, but I never, like for example, after training, I wasn't someone who would kind of be around too much, shopping or just being out. I'd be kind of keeping myself to myself.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of have a little sleep.
Was that because of the
so
reasons
just
you
being
didn't
out.
want to be seen, or because
Yeah,
of where
yeah,
you
yeah.
went, you
I didn't want to- I didn't-
everyone was going to be asking questions.
Yeah, bits and pieces. So just being out in the real world a bit more and feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
Because not everyone feels comfortable doing that. It's something that you kind of you're learning with, and even to this day, to a certain degree, and probably still dealing with that. But yeah, I think the most important thing is just to keep learning, finding new skills, finding what you enjoy, and that's what I'm still doing.
And it's great. And I'm sure everyone would love to ask this question, and I'm going to ask it.
Go on.
Your relationship with Daniel,
Yeah.
as a player to ambassador, and in that time you've been a coach.
Yeah.
How is that relationship?
Yeah, it's always been a good one. I think there's always been that kind of respect on both sides. I recognise that the club have been great to me as well. Daniel's been great, and yeah, to this day we have a good relationship. It's a bit different now because not being a player now, you get a chance to sometimes sit down and have a different type of conversation, which is great. But yeah, he's someone that cares about the club a lot. If you think about the old training ground and the old stadium to where we are now, and it's all Daniel's vision. It's all because of
It's
Daniel's
phenomenal,
vision.
this place. I mean, look at us today.
Yeah.
It's
You
been
forget
made
where you
for
are,
us,
don't
lads.
you? You forget the amount of times I'm in the stadium and I forget where I am because there's so many different elements to it. And this was all his vision. So but as I say, the relationship it's always been a good one. Yeah.
So in 2020, Jose Mourinho gives you a call. Ledley, will you come into my coaching staff? How did that feel then? And how good was it? And was that something, a vision that you always wanted? And is it something you want to maybe in the future?
It was a strange one because obviously as an ambassador, I'm around the club and the training ground at times, and Jose had just signed and he was in his office and I was kind of around close to his office, and someone said, "You met Jose?" So I said no. I thought let me go and say hello to him and welcome him to the club, and we had a chat, we spoke, and he said he'd like to see me on the training pitch and stuff like that. So literally I just started kind of going in, just watching training, and then started to speak to players. Then with the help of Nathan Gardner at the time, we started to kind of watch the games that players were playing in, especially the young players, so players like Jaff, Skippy at the time, and just kind of watch bits of their game and then give them advice on it, sit down with them, kind of go through some bits and pieces, also doing bits of extra work after training. So at this point I wasn't on the staff, but it's just giving communication and stuff to the lads. But then COVID happened and the season stopped, and then I kind of stayed away. Obviously, it was COVID. No one knew really what was going on. I stayed away, and then I got a call from Jose in the summer. It was actually a FaceTime, so he caught me a little bit unaware at the time. And
Classic, it's Jose Mourinho.
Yeah.
Calling me. Hey, what does he want?
and he asked me to be part of his staff. He said one of his staff members were leaving, and he spoke to his staff, and that they would all like me to come in. So it's one of them things you can't turn down.
Yeah.
I explained that I had not kind of been doing my badges at that point. He said it was fine for what he kind of wanted me for, and it was one of them things. I just kind of dived into it before you're coming back in pre-season. I'm working with someone or a group of people that I've never worked with in terms of his staff.
You had to learn Portuguese.
I have to learn. I have to learn what he's like as a manager, what he likes, what he doesn't like. So all these things I'm trying to kind of learn along the way. And yeah, I really enjoyed the experience. First part of the season, we were flying. We beat Man United 6-1 at Old Trafford. Beat Arsenal 2-0 at home. Beat City 2-0 at home. Drew 0-0 at Stamford Bridge. I'm thinking we're going to win the league.
Thinking this is easy.
I'm thinking we're going to first season. We're going to. But then, the second half of the season, things fell away. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being around the lads, trying to help in any way that I could. And it's always there with me, like that coaching element. It's always in the back of my head. But I realise that you have to be ready to do it, 100%. There's no ifs and buts.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it,
you're all in.
I've got to be all in. I've got to be all in with it. So.
Can I just ask you, and I'm sure everyone who's going to be watching this and listening to it, there was a clip that went out on social media when you're all sat probably in a room very similar to this, when Jose Mourinho opens that door and he said something in Portuguese and you all laughed. Did you actually understand it? You can't remember the clip, can you?
Of course I can remember the clip. Of course I remember the clip.
I remember it.
What do you think?
No. You didn't have a clue.
I didn't have a clue.
Yeah, I love it. I had to ask you that.
I did have a little Portuguese book as well, a little phrase book.
Oh, you did? Brilliant. I love it. You have to.
It was difficult.
You sat there and they all chatting in Portuguese.
There's a lot of swear words. Let's just say that.
Oh, yeah.
Flying about it time to time.
I mean, what a person to learn from, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
to just be in his presence and to learning. And is that something you see yourself wanting to go down in the long term? Maybe not the short term, but is it in your mind?
It's in my mind for sure. Yeah. It's in my mind for sure. And to be honest, Jose, it's funny because Jose was always someone that I always wanted to know what it'd be like to play under him. Do you know what I mean? And it's funny how life works. You get a chance to obviously be with him every single day. And he was great. He cared. He cared about the club. He wanted to do well. It was tough. It was, as I say, it was COVID at the time. No fans in the stadium. It became a tough season. But I will say that
I'm looking for my phone.
was highly motivated.
I was going to say I might be doing a podcast when Ledley King gets a job somewhere. Oh, it's Ledley King. He's calling me. FaceTime. Sorry, just hold there. Ledley's calling me. I'm out of here. I've got a new job.
You never know what's going to pop up, do you? Anytime. Yeah.
You never know.
Isn't it great though the work you did with the likes of Skippy and now you're looking at him in the first team? I just think that's such a great link there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean Skippy is a great lad, and as I say, we've got to do some work with him. But he went out on loan, I think. After that, Jaff was a big one because Jaff hadn't played any games in the first team at that point in time, and. Just being able to sit down with the manager and say that, what, Jaff has got these certain strengths, kind of highlighted to the manager, and he got his chance under Jose. Even Joe Rodon was another person who we got to work with quite a lot. So especially the younger lads that needed a bit of extra, because it's like when you're young, you need that. Yeah. You need that bit of extra work to develop
as well, and having you in the building.
No, I enjoyed it.
If there's one person in N17 and on a high road that deserves a mural, it's you. How does that feel? Because when I came down and see it, and when I drive up that high road, it stands out. That must be so proud. And you deserve it, mate.
Amazing. It's amazing. I would say that I've travelled up and down this high road since I was 14, and not once did I ever think that I'd see my big mug on the wall there. On the wall.
Great pick, though. It's a great pick.
It's a great pick. Yeah, it's one of my favourite goals, that one. I think you weren't too far behind me, was you?
I missed it. I think I misjudged the ball and you put it in the back.
No, but in the celebration.
Oh, yeah, we were there.
You were close,
Arm in arm. Great picture.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience, you know. Obviously, as a player, you say, why me? You know, I've seen many great players at the club. So, you know, it's just a great feeling. And to be honest, I always try to make sure that I go past it a certain amount of times a day. No, just to make sure that it's still there. And I just kind of take it in and just kind of, you know, give it the
well, you
kind of
deserve
respect.
it, lads.
Yeah.
We've got some quick fire questions.
Okay, let's kick this one off.
Go on then, lead the way.
What is the most random piece of Spurs memorabilia you own? I'm not talking shirts. I'm not talking a pair of boots, maybe from a final or something. Is there anything slightly more random out there?
This is supposed to be quick fire, eh?
Quick
Well,
fire.
I'm struggling already.
Yeah.
Well, it's quick fire for me to ask it anyway.
Struggling already. It's a good start. I can't think of anything.
Have you got any shirts?
What do you mean have I got any
You
shirts?
killed him there by saying, like, not just shirts.
I was
Just
thinking
like,
more random.
Yeah, okay.
Shirts
Give me an
not
example
random.
of what you...
yeah, but
because-
shirts for would me. That's the only thing I would say I have. I have a pair actually given for the 125th, the gear with a blue cross where I had an absolute shocker.
No. So we're talking about like a signed pair of pants or something. No one's got... No, I haven't got...
I wasn't thinking that, Liz.
No, okay. So, no, I haven't got anything
I don't know.
straight.
Perhaps we went abroad somewhere and you were given some sort of special memento of it or that sort of thing.
I think I'd
He's
be
looking at me,
like,
literally
I don't
looking
know
at me
what
blankly.
We're both looking at you like this.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's only us.
What's
who
the best
get-
shirt you've got? Did you swap any shirts when you were...
I wasn't a
And you're
big
younger,
swapper
no.
because I remember when quite young, I asked, I think it was Ryan Giggs, and he pied me. Yeah, he pied me.
That's funny,
I
that.
think he said that they get charged, and he didn't give me one.
No way.
Wow.
He didn't give me one, so that put me off.
Yeah, it does. You don't forget.
I've got Van Nistelrooy's, I've got
You do ask when you're
Vieira,
younger, though, don't
France.
you?
At first,
and then
when
you come.
yeah.
You
But
come-
then, and another thing, it was I didn't want to show any weakness. I didn't like showing it
Yeah.
after a while.
Yeah,
So I stopped asking anyway.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few of people that I know, like friends.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that you swap with, yeah.
I've played with throughout my career.
Les,
So a
is
lot
there-
of English players.
Is there one that you wish you'd asked for?
That's not everyone's getting asked that, by the way.
Yeah, there's a one. Well, for me, I always said that Henry was the best striker that I played against.
And he complimented you?
Yeah, so I never got an Henry shirt, although...
You were never
So
going
I
to
wasn't
ask
gonna
that
was
question.
I? I got no chance. Yeah, I had no chance of getting that. I should have got a France one. That's
Yeah.
what I should have got.
Yeah, you'd
So
have
I
got away
Vieira,
with it.
Well, I've
I
actually
got
got
Vieira
something
up
what
front.
Thierry Henry said. Thierry Henry on Ledley King in 2006. I don't like defenders who hold the shirts of other players. The only defender here who doesn't do that and sometimes still gets the ball to his feet easy is Ledley King. He's the only guy who doesn't hold players. He will get the ball off you without even noticing. For me, he is that good a defender. He plays without any contact, yet he's somehow still strong and gets the ball without doing any fouls. From Thierry Henry,
I'll just
what
say
a
something
player. I know he played
quickly.
for the other team in
Yeah,
North
no,
London,
he's a well
but
player.
phenomenal player.
And one thing that I saw recently is him talking about a top defender. What they can do is they can take you to an area, or 1 minute you have the ball, the next minute you don't, and they've got the ball and they take you away. And this was something that was always in my head, and it's always difficult to explain to people. When I was young, I didn't just want to be known as just a defender. I saw the game in a certain way. So even though I was a defender, I wanted to make defending be good, be not just about just being a defender. I wanted to make defending sexy, so to speak. Right. So when he said that, I thought to myself, do you know what? That's exactly how I wanted my opponents to feel. So it wasn't just the striker is having his way or trying his thing against me. Yeah. You know what? I want you to defend as well. I want to take the ball off you, and I want you to have to. Now I want to go past you. Yeah. Now I want to do that to you. And he was explaining it in a way about top defenders, and that's exactly. I've never been able to really explain it, but somehow that's how I felt, which is strange. Yeah, it's hard
I
to
used to
explain.
think
It's hard to
defending
explain.
was sexy when you get a nose like this, lads.
Yeah. Some people find it. Some people
Favourite Spurs kit?
Favorite Spurs kit. I have to say the one that we won the final in, because that's the one that just reminds me of
Great memories.
that memory. But yeah, so I'll go with that one.
Did you keep that shirt?
Yeah. I've got a shirt for every. I've got every shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, every shirt throughout the years. I say I had every shirt. I don't know if because over time you start giving them out to.
I hope you haven't
people,
given the
different
brown
charities.
shirt away. Do you
I still
remember
got
that
the
brown,
one.
that brown shirt?
Do you know
Someone
the brown
tells
ones?
me it's worth like.
Yeah, it's big. It's big
It's
now.
big.
At the time, no one
Yeah,
liked it.
Yeah.
That's the way it worked. I've still got hold of that. Yeah.
Right. Favourite Spurs player you played alongside and watched?
Bearing in mind who's 2 foot away from you.
Not me.
Don't worry about that. And watched.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're lucky that we had some really good lads in our team, didn't we?
Unbelievable lads.
Great lads. Even some of the players that we don't really see anymore in terms of around the club, but we're still great lads. You know, Timu, for example, was someone that we always really got on well with. Didier, Berber, another great lad. Van der Vaart, great lad. You know, we've had so many great people. Edgar, I've seen recently. Know how much he loved his time here. And then, of course, there's the Kenos, who was there for ages. Both Jermaines, Azza, Tom. But, of course, I'm going to have to go with my partner, the person who was next to me for most of my journey, most of my career. You strike up a special relationship, just playing next to each other, communicating with each other, fighting for the cause with each other, and that's what being a footballer is about. These little relationships on the pitch that are memorable, and that's why we have this picture here, because we know what it's like to have to put our body on the line and kind of fight for the team cause, and as defenders, you don't always get the glory, but. Yeah, we both understand how it was, and that's what makes it special.
That's very kind.
Watched.
I didn't pay him before, by the way, just to let you know.
You'll pay me after that.
I love
in
it.
terms of what?
When was a kid growing up, favourite Spurs player. And what?
I would say David Ginola was an unbelievable player. I played with him, but I remember watching him in the youth team and some of the things that he was doing in training was just incredible. Klinsmann was there as well when I was there, youth team, being able to watch players like that. But other players, I'd have to say, is probably Gaza. It has to be Gaza. At that period in my life, as probably a 10-year-old, to see what he was able to do was incredible, and the joy that he played with. He just played and had fun. He had fun with it.
Well, he's named some unbelievable players
Incredible
there.
players.
Now we've got to pick a five-a-side team.
Oh, no.
We'll let you,
Five-a-side of all Spurs players, like all-time Spurs. Like,
all-time Spurs five-a-side, and obviously
So
it's
it's
going to
gonna
be
be
players you played with, because we could talk about Dave Mackay, but you didn't see those players, you didn't obviously play with those players, so you can only go with what you know yourself, really.
So Robbo, Gomez. Ooh. I might have to go with Gomez in goal.
Gomez in goal. Ledley at the back.
Dawes?
No, you
Dawes,
can
yeah.
only go one. I'd go 1-1, 2-1.
Yeah. 1-1-2-1.
You can defend on your own, mate. You're in yourself.
You might have to
100%.
go
You're in
2-1.
yourself, and then 2 midfielders and 1 striker.
Might have to go 2-1-1. But anyway.
2-1-1. See,
well,
defensive side. And I know Jermaine. If we ever interview
listen,
Jermaine, he'll go 1-4. 1-3-1, and he'll just leave defence and think I'll score more goals than the opposition. That's all he'll think.
Again, played with some amazing forwards. Teddy, Les, Berber, Robbie. Adebayor was great, but in the five-a-side, I have to go with Jermaine. Just his sharpness and his ability to just quick snapshots. So Jermaine, Luca.
Ooh.
And then I don't want to waste the other position on the defender. Do you know what
I
I mean?
I would completely agree, mate.
You
I wouldn't waste another
and then you've got to get
defender.
Gaz in there, and he does everything. He gets forward, gets back, can do it all. So that would be it.
I mean, what a five-a-side.
What a team that is, by the
team.
way.
And a lot of players that weren't mentioned in that team, and that's just this football club has geniuses all the way from Dave Mackay to Wazzies to Hoddle to Waddle to Klinsmann to Defoe's. I mean, the list, it never ends. No. It never ends at this football club. And me growing up, Gazza was someone I watched. So, well, unsung hero, Spurs unsung hero.
Do you have a Spurs unsung hero, Led? Someone who perhaps didn't get the credit he deserved from away from the dressing room. Obviously, everyone in that dressing room was
There's
part
a few.
of it.
I think I'm going to name a few. I'm going to pick one. Well, saying that, but I was going to say Wilson, but Wilson probably got the fans loved him, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did love him.
And he came in and did the job that was required, didn't he, for that?
So the other two that I would say, for me, who I thought were really good players, probably underrated players, were Teemu Tainio. He was someone. Sometimes you just have players in the team that are clever players. You don't always, or the majority of fans don't always see what they bring to a team. But Teemu was kind of an important player in the team. Done a lot of kind of unselfish work. And the other one was Didier. I liked Didier in there. Full of energy. Someone who could play different positions. So many different positions. I think he was an underrated player. I'm just talking about Didier. It's reminding me of a story. It's so funny. Can I tell it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So Didier, as I say, could play different positions. And I remember, I think it was Harry was going to play him at right back against Aston Villa because Ashley Young was at Villa at the time on the left. And I think Harry was a little bit worried about Charlie Corluca's pace kind of up against Young. So he played Didier at right back. So I remember sitting next to Didier in the changing room, telling Didier, look, this is what he likes to do. He does this and he does that. And Didier was like, don't worry. He said, Young, small player, me, big player. And then he got dragged off at half time. He had a nightmare. I mean, he was sitting there with his hands in his lap at half time as he got dragged on.
Oh.
And he got dragged off and Charlie come on in the second half and just totally took care of him.
You've mentioned two players there, two characters. Well, I'm going to tell you a story about Teemu. One, when it was the end of the season and we're in on the Monday morning, I think, and Teemu came dressed up as, was it Spider-Man? I think he came as Spider. He was dressed up, and I remember Martin Hill standing at the front of the room. Teemu was in this Spider-Man outfit, and he'd had a good night, obviously. I don't think he'd been to bed. And Martin was thinking, my goodness, what's he going to be like in 6 weeks? But Teemu, what a guy. We had a great group of lads, didn't we? It was magnificent. Right, the last question, lads, for you. It's a tough one. In your opinion, who was the greatest Spurs player ever?
Ooh. So again, I can only go back to kind of really what I've seen. I know there's been some fantastic players in the history of the club, obviously. Dave Mackay, Danny Blanchflower, and people like Ozzy and Gazza, Hoddle, who I actually had as a manager and was still one of the best players in trading. Gazza, Luca, but
Jimmy Greaves,
of course. Yeah, Jimmy Greaves. I was going to say that is Jimmy, but then Harry's just got that record, and I think Harry has to go down as the.
It's so hard. That is a question that is so hard. And we've named some of them. We missed them. We missed names. There's just so many great players
in history. But I think when this all said and done, I don't think you can argue what Harry's done. Yeah,
Ledley, there'll be kids growing up from where you grew up in East London who hopefully will listen or watch some of this podcast. I'm going to ask you for a bit of football advice. You've been there, seen it, done it all. What would you tell those young kids who want to follow in your footsteps?
I think one thing that you have to tell them is that you can never afford to stand still or rest on your laurels. If you're a talented player, you have to keep developing. You have to keep progressing. I've seen many talented players start off talented and then stand still and be overtaken by the people that are willing to work hard. Another thing is confidence. To have confidence in yourself. Confidence is not something that other people can really give you. It's something that you have to kind of find within yourself. And when you have setbacks, it's you that needs to be able to try and find a way to come back. Young players often told they're not good enough at a certain age, maybe have to leave a football club. And I've seen that break many players, but I think that if you can believe in yourself and have that confidence to keep pushing, keep working hard, then, you know, that's a great thing. That's a great trait. I think that, you know, on the bigger picture of life is that there's going to be ups and downs. You know, football is a small element of that, you know, of someone's life. But, you know, in life, there's always going to be different ups and downs, different things that you're dealing with, and, you know, being able to kind of take sometimes a negative or something that's difficult and trying to turn that around into a positive, and just learning from experiences in that way. That's the way I always try to kind of do things. That's the way I try to do things in football. Okay, this has been a tough I This has been negative, but now how can I make it into a positive? And I think if you can try and do that in life, then I think that's a great way to help.
King by name, king by nature, and it's been a privilege, my friend, to do the first podcast with you. We will be back again with another special guest.